Emily Parker always tried her best to stay invisible in school. She was the kind of girl who walked the halls with her head slightly lowered, her books hugged close to her chest, and her thoughts moving faster than her words ever could. At 17, she was quiet, polite, and diligent, but also weighed down by the invisible burdens that life had placed on her shoulders too early. Her father had left years ago, her mother worked double shifts at the diner just to keep the lights on, and Emily often carried the weight of being both the daughter and the helper in their small household. She loved learning, but lately, her grades had been slipping. She stayed up too late helping her younger brother with his homework, or taking on small babysitting jobs to help with bills. Her mind wandered in class, and though she rarely spoke, her teachers noticed the exhaustion in her eyes. Most students at Lincoln High School didn't pay much attention to her, but Mr. Anderson, her English teacher, had a way of noticing things others didn't. That particular Tuesday afternoon, the classroom buzzed with the scraping of chairs and the chatter of students eager to escape into the crisp autumn air. Emily sat near the back, trying to finish copying the last sentence from the board into her notebook. She didn't even hear Mr. Anderson call her name the first time. It wasn't until he said it again, a little louder, that she looked up. "Emily, could you stay after class for a moment?" he asked, his tone gentle but firm. Her heart skipped a beat. She immediately worried she had done something wrong. Teachers rarely singled her out. She nodded quietly, slipping her notebook into her bag as the last of her classmates poured out the door. The room grew strangely quiet once the laughter and footsteps faded down the hallway. She sat still, her hands folded nervously in her lap, waiting. Mr. Anderson approached her desk slowly. He was in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and wire-rimmed glasses that always seemed to slide down his nose. He carried himself with the calm confidence of someone who had been teaching long enough to understand that sometimes the most important lessons weren't found in textbooks. "Emily," he said, pulling out the chair across from her and sitting down so their eyes were on the same level, "I wanted to talk to you about your last essay." She felt her chest tighten. She had turned that essay in late, barely managing to finish it between babysitting and cooking dinner. It wasn't her best work, and she knew it. She stared at her hands, waiting for the disappointment she was certain was coming. But instead, Mr. Anderson surprised her. He placed her essay gently on the desk, the red marks minimal compared to what she expected. "This," he said, tapping the paper, "isn't just an essay. It's your story. And it's powerful." Emily blinked, unsure she had heard him correctly. "You wrote about your mother," he continued, "about how she sacrifices so much, about how you admire her strength even when life feels overwhelming. That's not something every student is brave enough to share. You may not realize it, but your voice is weight, Emily. You have something important to say." For a moment, her eyes filled with tears. She quickly tried to blink away. No teacher had ever told her something like that before. Most of the time, she felt invisible, as if her struggles and quiet efforts never really mattered. "I noticed you've been tired lately," he went on, his voice kind, "and your grades are slipping, but that doesn't mean you're not capable. It just means you're carrying too much on your own. You don't have to hide that. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve to believe in yourself." Emily swallowed hard, her throat tight. She had expected criticism, but instead, she was being handed something else entirely: hope. Mr. Anderson slid a small piece of paper toward her. On it were a few lines he had written out in neat, careful handwriting. It was a quote from a poet she had never read before. "You are stronger than your obstacles, braver than your fears, and your story matters more than you'll ever know." She picked up the paper with trembling hands. "Why are you giving this to me?" she asked quietly. "Because," he said, smiling warmly, "sometimes we all need to be reminded of our worth. I believe you can do more than you think, Emily. And I want you to believe it too." That moment stayed with her long after she left the classroom. She walked home with the note tucked safely inside her pocket, the words echoing in her mind. For the first time in months, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. Over the next few weeks, Emily carried that encouragement with her. She studied harder, asked more questions in class, and even allowed herself to smile when someone complimented her work. Slowly, she started to believe in her own voice. She wrote essays filled with honesty and emotion, and Mr. Anderson continued to encourage her growth. Her mother noticed the change too. "You've been glowing lately," she said one night at dinner. "What's gotten into you?" Emily just smiled, not sure how to explain the quiet moment in that empty classroom that had lit something inside her. By the time graduation came around, Emily wasn't the same girl who once tried to disappear in the hallways. She walked across the stage in her cap and gown, her heart pounding with pride. She caught Mr. Anderson's eye in the audience and gave him a small, grateful smile. He clapped the loudest when her name was called. Years later, Emily would look back on that day after class not as a moment of embarrassment or fear, but as the turning point of her life. One simple conversation, one piece of encouragement, had changed the trajectory of her future. She carried his words into college, into her career, and into every challenge she faced. And whenever she doubted herself, she would take out the worn little piece of paper, read the words again, and remember the teacher who believed in her before she believed in herself. It was never about staying after class for punishment or correction. It was about staying after class to be reminded that she mattered. And that, truly, changed everything.